Firstly, I want to introduce myself. I'm Sophie. I work in the Waste Minimisation team at Yarra. And yeah, I wanted to welcome everyone to our webinar today on the recycling revolution.
Thanks very much, Sophie. Hi, everybody. So my name is Misha Coleman. I'm the Mayor of the City of Yarra, at least until the forthcoming council elections in October. So I hope you've enrolled to vote. I'm not standing again, but want to make sure that you can vote if you live in the City of Yarra. I'd like to start by saying that at Yarra we acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung as the traditional owners, and wherever we're dialing in from, we're dialing in from the lands of traditional owners, and the sovereignty of those lands has never been ceded. So on behalf of staff and councillors at Yarra, I'd like to pay my deep and sincere respects to elders past, present and emerging. So I'd just like to also apologise for my croaky voice. We had a 7.5-hour council meeting last night that I was chairing, so that was a bit of a marathon, but we're really, really glad to have you here today, and thanks for sharing the poll results. And it looks like we've got Richmond, Cremorne, Burnley crew as the biggest cohort today, but you're also so welcome. So the way we're planning to run this today is that I'm going to just kick off by trying to let you know what the key changes are in terms of the recycling revolution. And I've got to say that after being on City of Yarra for 8 years, this is just one of the biggest and best things I think that I've ever seen come out of our city. So I'm really, really proud of it. After I sort of outline my understanding of the key changes, I've got like our actual expert, which is not me, Joe Agostino, who's here to sort of go into detail and also take questions. So I want to also sort of touch a little bit on, this is not like a one-size-fits-all approach for everybody. There is some flexibility in the system, so I'll try and cover that off a little bit as well. So let's get into it. So this recycling revolution is coming to every household, every business and every building that's serviced by Yarra. I think we're on slide 5, Sophie. So we're going to be rolling out this new purple lidded bin, which is really about having a way to collect and separate the glass bottles and jars from the rest of your recyclables. I know you've got a lot of questions about bin sizes and how often we'll collect them and everything. So this service is designed to start from late September, where all households and businesses are going to get their new glass bin, and the first collections are planned to start from the 23rd of November. So what we're asking Yarra residents to do is to separate the glass out from your other recycling and use the purple lidded bin for that glass. So that does change what goes into your yellow lidded bin, and the recycling, the glass and the yellow lidded will be collected fortnightly. So like I said, all households and businesses that council looks after will get an 80-litre purple lidded glass bin. And then residents who live in apartment blocks, those serviced by council, because obviously some apartment blocks have their own private waste collection delivery system, but for council, the number of the purple bins will really be based on how many apartments are in each building. So we're going to provide free bin upgrades for the glass and recycling bins for anybody who needs bigger capacity. So we've also got a 120-litre version and 140 and 240 litre versions if you need it. But we also, on the other side, know that space is a premium for a lot of people in Yarra. So for people who are struggling to fit that third bin in, we're going to do a couple of things. We're really happy to facilitate bin sharing between neighbours, and then we'll also have this this small bin option, which is a 27 leader option, and that's also for residents who've got like mobility issues or really, you know, significant space constraints, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a sec. So like I said, notwithstanding any COVID interruptions, which we're all getting used to this year, the first bin collection is scheduled for the 23rd of November, and the bins will be delivered starting the week of September the 14th. So that's when we'll start getting them out there in advance of that first collection at the end of November. When the glass bin comes, there'll also be an information kit with which will have everything that you need to know. We'll also have a calendar which will outline the collection dates, which is a great thing. So just to say, you know, you probably know, because you're on this call and you're interested, that the recycling industry in Australia is like in a real state of flux. It was completely turned upside down when international markets stopped accepting our recycling material, and you know, this has actually led to a real transformation, which I personally think is a really positive thing. And from Council's point of view, we've really tried to step up and actually show some leadership in this area. And so, you know, we're not retreating into a state of despair, but we've really tried to step up, both in terms of this service and in terms of a lot of advocacy with the state government around, you know, the whole economy, which needs to change. So this model that we're rolling out is really on improving the quality of the recycling material that we're collecting, and keeping those materials here in Australia, and with that creating local jobs. So this is what we call the circular economy, and it's in action now in Yarra. So I really, you know, I hope you all participate and see the value in this scheme. And I think that the key message is that we're basically collecting what we're able to use and recycle here in Victoria, and we hope over time that the economy grows and the infrastructure grows so that we can collect and do even more locally. So now I'm going to hand over to the actual expert, Joe Agostino. Over to you, Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. Soph, we might need to adjust the slides there. Okay, thank you and welcome everyone. As Mayor Coleman said, my name's Joe Agostino. I'm the manager at CityWorks. Just wanted to premise and just to add a little bit to what Mayor Coleman said. The Yarra community is very progressive, and particularly in the sustainability area. We've had a great support from councillors on this project, and that's very much because the community has demanded it. So we have taken some pretty bold steps, and those steps were taken because, as the Mayor said, the recycling industry really is in disarray. And the steps we've taken are, one, to set a model for a circular economy, and two, to make sure that the Yarra material is secure and that we are recovering as much as possible. So just to give you a little bit of a back context, we've been running a trial in the Abbotsford area for the last 12 months, and the whole premise of that trial, the reason we ran it, was to find a better model for curbside recycling. So the whole idea was, you know, can we separate out our material? Can we improve the quality? Can we end up with a better new stream of glass? What bin sizes work, what don't work? And at the same time, we had to work with authorities, so with the WorkSafe providers, and make sure that everything was legal as well. So there was a lot of work and there was a lot of data that came out of that trial. And the one big thing that came out of it was a very, very high support from the community for what we were doing. And we understand that we changed the whole structure in that area. So we took people from a weekly garbage collection and a weekly recycling collection, and then suddenly we had fortnightly garbage, we had fortnightly recycling, we had weekly FOGO, and we had fortnightly glass. And we understand that there would have been a real adjustment process. So we really do appreciate the effort that was put in by the community. The major result from that trial in terms of diversion from landfill was that we took, from 35% recovery, we took it to 61%. So it was well worth pursuing. We were intending to roll out a 4-bin model across Yarra in July this year. Unfortunately, with COVID and budget impacts, we had to delay. So we went back and had a look at what we could do, what steps could we take? And we realised that by saving dollars on processing fees, because gate fees are also at an all-time high, we could actually deliver a 3rd bin, which was the glass, which is a critical part of what we're trying to do, because the glass is a huge contaminant in the recycling. So maybe next slide. So the reason we're targeting the glass is because traditionally we've been, for the last 2 decades, we've had it in 1 bin. Now that glass gets crushed and it gets, run over by machinery at the sorting plant, so it does embed itself into all the other material. And when the market collapsed, it was really due to the quality of the material. By taking glass out, we achieve 2 things. We improve the quality of the other recyclables in the bin, which is your paper, cardboard, suitable plastics, even aluminium cans were being contaminated by glass fragments. And at the same time, we collect a new stream of glass. So we collect a clean stream of glass that's suitable for 2 things. It's suitable for manufacturing new glass, and it's suitable for mixing into asphalt for road base. And eventually the high quality will go to glass for glass. One thing that's happened in the market is Visy has bought out OI, which are the glass manufacturers, and the target will be to take the recycled content of new containers from 37% at the moment up to 60%. So there's going to be a big demand for clean glass. And at the same time, our recycling material from the trial area has been of a high quality and has been suitable for the local market. So stimulating that local economy is really critical. Next one, please, Soph. So the question might come up, what about food waste? Well, that's not off the agenda. It's just a delay. So we will be dealing with the food waste later. It's just off the agenda temporarily, and we will keep the booked green waste service going at the moment. So people who do have green waste will be able to use the booked green waste service. So that won't change. That'll just keep going. And as we said, we're focused on the glass because that's the one that's really critical for material quality. So we haven't moved away from food. That will be happening. It'll be happening at a later date. So just before I go into this too, I'd also like to say that, we're very good at creating great collection systems, but our real focus on the waste revolution is really how do we get the total volume of waste down. So, we really want to engage with the community. We really would like you to question your habits, the way you generate waste, because that's our greatest challenge going forward for the future. We can keep implementing great collection systems, but unless as a community we find a way to reduce the waste, the problem is just going to continuously improve. So our real challenge going forward is going to be how do we get the waste down, and that's going to be a challenge for the waste team going forward. We've got a great waste team, but we're going to challenge the community. we're going to challenge you to look at your habits and see if we can actually reduce the overall waste. So we've found a new processor for our waste, which is we're able to find materials for the local market. So the new processor has local markets, and our whole focus on this is collecting materials that can be used on the local market. So there's going to be a little bit of a change in what we're currently collecting. The main change is plastics. The plastic market has totally collapsed. We will be targeting plastics with a number. So on most plastics, there's a number with the little arrows that rotate. So we're targeting plastics at a number 1, number 2, and we've now also found a market. So our process has found a market for plastics number 5. Paper and cardboard is good, steel cans, aluminium cans, foil, metal lids, they're all still good, but we will be very, very selective in what we're collecting. And that's only because it doesn't have a market at the other end. So if we collect material that's no good, all that ends up happening, it contaminates the other material, it goes to the processor, that processor takes it out, and whatever is not good goes to landfill. So we're actually transporting it twice. So from a sustainability perspective, it's certainly not a good model. So apart from the materials that are suitable for the recycling collection, the remainder will need to go in the waste bin at the moment. And obviously that's apart from the glass. The other thing that's also changed, which you'll probably be used to, is the milk and juice containers, aerosol cans, even if they're empty, no good for the recycling bins. Lids off plastic bottles, they contain vinyl and all sorts of materials, so they're not a single plastic source. Coffee cups shouldn't be in your recycling bin. So there's a few changes there that we'll need to adjust to, and that'll happen over time, and we'll work with you, and we will let you know what's right and wrong, but it's going to take a little bit of time to transition. Next one, Soph. We are also moving to a fortnightly collection. Now, the waste collection will remain weekly. We're moving to a fortnightly collection for recycling in glass. There's 2 reasons for that. One is we can split the existing recycling fleet, so we don't have to introduce new vehicles. In other words, we don't have to introduce 6 new vehicles to collect the glass. And again, from a sustainability perspective and an environmental perspective, trucks running around the Yarra municipality burn diesel. Now, down the track, we will be moving to electric vehicles as well, but at the moment, we're trying to minimise the impact, the traffic impacts, and at the same time, we're able to find some savings in the total cost, which allows us to roll out this 3rd bin. And that's the reason for fortnightly collections. It's not just to reduce your waste volume. And the Mayor touched on flexibility in the system, which I think we've got some slides on that, and I'll talk about a bit later in. Soph, next. So the contamination approach. It's going to be really, really critical that moving forward, everything that we take to our processor is clean and suitable for the market. So we will need to monitor bins pretty carefully. And again, we'll work with you. We're not going to just leave you in a lurch. We will work with you. But the instructions to the collection crews will be, if a bin's contaminated, they will need to leave it. And they will leave a sticker on your bin. It's really just a matter of ringing the customer service area, and as soon as the contamination is out, we'll come back and collect that bin. And again, over time, it'll become easier and easier for the community, but it's really critical for us that we take a contamination stance, because the reason for the collapse in the market in the first place is contamination, and it's not the community's fault. It's just really what's evolved over time and different materials being put into the bin. So we're going to have to be very specific So we do ask you to work with us on that. Be patient. If you do get a sticker on your bin, we'll work with you. Next, Soph. So how are we making this happen? So on the 28th of September, we're planning to start rolling out the glass bins. So the approach will be, we're going area for area. With the bin, you'll get a calendar, which will give you instructions about what area you're in. You'll get a whole set of instructions and information on how to use the new bin. So first collection, as the Mayor mentioned, will happen on the 23rd of November, but we need approximately 8 weeks to roll those bins out across the municipality. And you're probably thinking, as the Mayor touched on also, I don't have room for my bin, I'll need a bigger bin. We really do understand that one size doesn't fit all in Yarra. So there's a number of approaches here, and there'll be a number of reasons. So some people will say, look, I don't need a glass bin because I don't generate any glass. And I've spoken to a number of community members. Some people will say, well, I want to share with my neighbour. Some people will say, I need a smaller bin. And then some people will say, I need a bigger bin to cope with fortnightly recycling. I can assure you, we will work with you. We will assess. We're already getting a list. So we've asked people to call our customer service centre. We're already putting a list together of those categories. If we can manage to sort some of those out before we start the bin rollout, we will. If not, we just ask you to be patient, work with us. We will work with you, and we will find a flexibility, and we will find a result for everybody. So we will make it work for everybody. So do understand that we really do appreciate the different geography in Yarra, the different house sizes, the different issues. We have tried, so there's a couple of households within the Fitzroy area where we've actually placed some bins just to see how they do fit, how they don't, what the footprints are. So we've put a little bit of work in the background, but there is flexibility in the system. So I just want to reassure everybody of that. The other thing I should say is, sorry, Soph, the main thing, so the critical thing to this is, if you feel you don't need a glass bin or you've got a real problem, our main aim here is to get the glass out of the recycling bin. So that's the critical thing. So from the 23rd of November, the processor that we're going to won't be able to process glass. So that's a really critical part for us. Thanks, Soph. You will be supported. I can tell you we have a marvellous waste and comms team. They are dedicated, they are passionate, they love what they do. They really want to make this work, and I can guarantee you will get a heap of support from the team. So we will have a Revolution kit coming to you. There's content on the website, online information, there'll be calendars, there'll be updates on social media, there'll be updates in magazines, and there's instructional stickers on your bin. So again, I really want to reassure you that there's a team there waiting to help you. I mean, there's a lot of work that's gone into today, and that the team is listening, and we're keen to hear your questions. Multi-unit sites are one of the big areas in Yarra. So we know that a fair majority of our population by number live in apartment blocks. This is one area we're going to have a really strong focus on over the next 12 months. So we are going to be engaging with every apartment site in Yarra. We're gearing up for that now. We're collecting information. We've cleaned up our database. We're getting details for all the mud sites. So it's an area we're going to be focusing on. We will assist you. We will support you. Again, be patient with us. We will get to all sites. If you do have problems, give us a call. Businesses is the other one. We will also be engaging with businesses. So we will be rolling out a glass bin for businesses. It will be the same entitlements as households. We will use the same flexibility. We will work with you. There are specific toolkits designed for commercial properties, but it's the other area that we'll be putting a very, very strong focus on. That's not to say we won't be focusing on the single households. I'm just emphasising that there are those categories within Yarra, and we will have a strong focus on all of them. Next, Soph. There's a Recycling Revolution SMS service, so it's a voluntary opt-in. So it's a way of allowing you to engage with us and us to engage with you. You can get text messages as reminders, the occasional service update. Everyone will receive an SMS code. So if you opt in, you'll receive an SMS code with your bin collection calendar and Revolution kit. So I think I've probably said enough. I'm keen to hear some questions, and I'm sure everybody else is as well. So thank you, Soph. I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Joe. So just to remind everyone, there's two ways you can pose a question. The first one is to put it into the Q&A chat in Zoom, and I'll see it and read it out to everyone. And if you prefer to ask your question verbally in person, just raise your hand, which is a button at the bottom of the screen, and then I will unmute you and you can ask the question directly. Right, there's one question in the chat, which is, do we need to have the labels on or off the glass jars, and would this be considered contamination?
Labels are fine. Lids off. And if they're metal lids, they can go into the recycling bin. If they're plastic lids, put them in the waste bin, but labels are fine.
Okay, my question, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. My question is similar to the other one about the paper. Lots of wine bottles have a metal, as well as the metal cap, which you take off, there's still a metal rim around the bottle. Is that considered contamination, and how are you going to deal with it?
Look, the metal rim should also come off, and the reason for that, there's a couple of reasons for that. If it's going through an optic sort, so we'll be going in stages, so we're waiting for infrastructure to be built for glass to glass sorting. When that infrastructure's there, as the bottle goes through, the laser beam will pick up the metal ring, and it'll knock the head off the cap, which means we lose off the bottle, which means we actually lose glass. So we would ask the community to remove that ring.
And I think we're probably going to need some information on a tool to help us do that, because they are quite difficult to remove.
Just a small, I normally just use a small screwdriver, or anything that gets in behind it. Normally it breaks pretty easy. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. There's a couple more questions in the chat. So one is an anonymous question. What is the percentage tolerance for contamination in the yellow recycling bin that would trigger it being stickered?
That's a very good question, because realistically, so our vehicle's a little bit different. You might have seen vehicles with a single driver with a mechanical arm that lifts the bins. They're not the sort that we've got. We have what we call rear loader vehicles, and that's because of the geography in Yarra. So our bins are actually viewed and handled by a jockey. Now, all they can do is sight, so they'll open the bin if there's obvious contamination. So they won't be able to look through the whole bin. So if there's obvious contamination, like, you'd be surprised what we find in recycling bins. So if there's food in it, there's plastics that shouldn't belong in there, there's a big toy sticking out of it. If there's obvious contamination, that's when you'll receive a sticker. So this is very much a, I guess, it's a transition, but it's based on trust as well. So we're hoping that we don't get contamination in there, but a sticker will only happen if it's obvious. Now, if the bin is emptied into the bowl, you know, and we find an engine block underneath, then what'll happen, your bin's already been emptied, but the crew will give you a sticker to say, look, we've found some contamination in it, please don't contaminate it next time. So it's a bit of a different process depending on what's in the bin. But if it's obvious contamination, you'll receive a sticker on it.
Great. Another question we've got here is about shared bins, Joe. So how will shared bins work? Could we have shared bins stored on the street? Because some people will have to sacrifice space for their cars and that sort of stuff. So wondering how shared bins will work.
Okay, we do encourage shared bins. So how it'll work, if you let us know that you want to share bins, we'll send you out, and I think there might be one available on the website, so correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll send you out or email you out just a simple document to say, you know, these households are sharing, these are the bins that we do or don't want, and then we'll actually assess it. So someone from the waste team will come down and have a look at your site and probably have a look at the best way to structure it. But we will encourage sharing of bins. There will be a formal process so that we've got that on record. And then you tell us who wants what bin and we'll do it accordingly. But there'll be a formal process so that we've got a record of it. But we'll work with you. It's almost like we do have an operational area, obviously, and that's picking up the bin, but you probably need to see our waste team as waste consultants, and we will work with you. So we've got a team of experts just busting to solve your problems.
Here's a really good question. So some nice feedback from Tim about, he's very excited about the new rollout. He lives in an apartment block and he's wondering that if glass items break in the bins, should they remove the pieces or do they need to be very careful about placing the items in the communal bins?
Breakage won't be a problem. Breakage as it goes into the bin will absolutely not be a problem. So no, don't stress about that, not an issue. As long as it's not contaminated with other material, breakage is fine. So don't pick up broken pieces, don't cut yourself.
Great. I don't have any more questions in the chat. We were also going to run another quick poll just to get a sense from the audience around what other information they might be interested in hearing about in future information sessions. So I've just launched that. If people could give us an answer, and then that will help direct us, provide the right information to you in the future. Awesome. Seeing the responses come in. Ooh, lots about apartments. Yes, multi-unit developments are a big priority. Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions from the floor, Joe, was there anything else you wanted to add to close out?
Look, again, I'd just like to emphasise that we really do have a progressive community, and you know, all the work that the waste team's been doing is really based on demands from our community. So in a sense, you make us a better team, but I think at the end of that we get a better result. And as the Mayor mentioned, we have taken some radical action here and we've led the way in this. And I'd like to think that we could bring the community along with us. And I'd like to think that down the track we can set some new targets for Yarra. So again, I'd just like to emphasise, I'd like to thank the Mayor for her time. I'd like to thank the councillors for the support on this project. Really thank the Abbotsford community and the waste team and the comms team who have put in a heck of a lot of work in the background to prepare, not just for this presentation, I mean for the whole rollout. So I think it's great. Really looking forward to the project, and looking forward to setting new targets for the Yarra community going forward.
Thanks very much, Joe and the team, for putting this all together today, and thanks for everybody who joined. Going into the next 4 years of council, as we mentioned before, we really wanted to try and roll out a food and organics system as well. We didn't have the money and we didn't have the capacity to do the sort of community education that needed to go with that. So going forward in the next 4 years, I hope you all continue to contact whoever your elected representatives are, and if you'd like to see a food and organics system rolled out as well, you'll need to make sure it's your councillors' priority as well to make sure that the budget line ends up in the budget. So thanks to everybody for your interest, and to the Waste team, and we hope to hear from you all again very soon. Thanks very much.